your eyes for a moment. Most people think they are here to escape their lives. They think meditation is a soft pillow, a warm cup of tea, or a temporary vacation from the stress of their boss, their bank account, or their broken heart. Relaxation. But if you are only looking for relaxation, you are missing the miracle. Relaxation is about making your current prison more comfortable. Transformation is about breaking down the walls of the cell entirely. Real meditation is an act of biological rebellion. It is the moment you stop being a victim of your environment and start becoming the architect of your energy. When you sit down and decide to stay present, you are going to war with years of conditioned habits. Your body, which has been programmed to be the mind, will protest. It will tell you that you're tired, that you're busy, that you have emails to send. But when you overcome that urge to get up, you are no longer the old self. You are stepping into the unknown. Truly understand the depth of what occurs when we step into the arena of the inner self. We must first confront the reality that most of us are living in a recurring loop of the past. From the moment you wake up in the morning and reach for your phone to check your messages, your social media, and your emails, you are immediately plugging your consciousness into a predictable reality. You are affirming an identity that is tied to your problems, your coworkers, your bank account, and your physical location. By the time you finished your first cup of coffee, your brain has already fired the same sequences of neurons it fired yesterday and the day before and the year before that. Essentially a program of habits, and because your body has been conditioned to respond to this routine, it has effectively become the mind. This is why meditation is not a passive act of relaxation. It is a violent, beautiful, necessary act of transcending the body, mind to reclaim your sovereignty. When you sit down to meditate and you close your eyes, you are severing the tether to the environment. You are no longer looking at the people you dislike or the bills you have to pay. The real work begins because the body, which has been the master for decades, starts to realize it's no longer in control. It begins to send signals to the brain protesting the stillness. It tells you that your back aches, that your nose itches, that you have a very important task you forgot to complete. These are not just stray thoughts. These are the physiological protests of a biological system that is addicted to the rush of cortisol and the familiarity of its own limitations. You get into those urges. If you get up to check the time or scratch that itch, you have just reaffirmed that the body is the mind. You have allowed the physical vessel to dictate the state of your consciousness. However, you recognize that impulse and you choose to settle back into the present moment. You are asserting your will over your biology. You are telling the body, I am the master here. In that singular moment of redirection, you are breaking the chains of 1,000 yesterdays. To transcend the body, mind is to move into a state of being no body, no thing, in no time. This sounds abstract, but it is a literal neurological shift. You are moving out of the survival centers of the brain, parts that are always scanning for danger or seeking external validation, and you are moving into the frontal lobe, the seat of the creator. In this void, you are no longer defined by your gender, your profession, or your history. You become pure consciousness, a point of awareness in a field of infinite potential. This is where the old self begins to die and the new self begins to breathe. Most people struggle because they try to create a new life while still being the same person. Wealth while still feeling lack. They want health while still feeling like a victim of their genes. But the quantum field doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to who you are being. If your energy is still anchored to the emotions of the past, you are literally broadcasting a signal into the universe that says, nothing has changed. Therefore, nothing changes. Transcending the body-mind means you must become greater than the conditions of your life. You must reach a state where you are more focused on the internal vision than the external reality. This is the definition of the visionary. It is the ability to make the thought in your head more real than the chair you are sitting on. As you linger in this space of nothingness, the brain begins to reorganize itself. You start to prune the old neurological pathways that kept you stuck in resentment or fear. Are no longer rehearsing the tragedy of your childhood or the failure of your last relationship. Instead, you are clearing the slate. This is not about feeling calm. It is about the intense, focused effort of staying in this sweet spot of the generous present moment. The present moment is the only place where the door to the quantum field opens. If you are in the future, you are in anxiety. If you are in the past, you are in regret. When you are truly in the present, the body-mind connection is severed, and you are free to begin the process of biological and energetic restructuring. You are teaching the body to follow the mind into a new territory. You are becoming the scientist of your own soul, observing the old thoughts as they arise and choosing, with the power of a conscious creator, to no longer give them life. This is the first and most vital step toward a transformation that is not just psychological, deeply fundamentally biological. When we begin to pull our attention away from the external world and direct it inward, we encounter a chaotic landscape that most people spend their entire lives trying to ignore. Internal noise is the result of a brain that has been conditioned by high beta stress. In this state, the brain is firing out of sync. Different compartments are partitioned and uncoordinated, working at cropuses like a symphony orchestra where every musician is playing a different song at a different tempo. This is what it feels like to live in survival mode. It is a fragmented existence where your energy is scattered across the various problems and objects in your life. To move from this state of disorder into a state of transformation, we must master the art of brain coherence. This is not a passive byproduct of sitting still. It is a conscious, deliberate tuning of the biological instrument. When you begin to slow your brain waves down from the frantic pace of daily life, you start to move from the analytical beta state into the more rhythmic and orderly alpha and theta frequencies. Transition is the moment the door between the conscious and the subconscious mind swings open. In a state of brain coherence, the different branches of the nervous system start to communicate with one another in a rhythmic, holistic fashion. If a wave order is washing through your gray matter, synchronizing the right and left hemispheres, when the brain is coherent, you are coherent. Your thoughts become more orderly, your focus becomes laser sharp, and for the first time in perhaps years, your internal biology stops screaming for survival and starts whispering the language of creation. Most people believe that their brain is a fixed entity, but through the intentional focus of meditation, you are actually changing the way the neurons fire and wire together. You are moving out of the emergency mode of the nervous system and into a state where the brain can actually process new information. This is why you cannot solve a problem with the same brain that created it. You have to change the brain's architecture first. You have to create a state of neurological harmony so that the answers, the visions, the new possibilities can actually find a place to land. If you observe the brain of someone in a state of stress, it is incredibly inefficient. It is burning massive amounts of energy just to keep up with the perceived threats of the environment. When you create coherence, the brain becomes a highly efficient transmitter of information. It starts to pulse with a unified rhythm. This is where the magic happens. In this state of high-level order, you are no longer reacting to the world. You are beginning to command your own biology. You are signaling to the body that the danger is over and that it is safe to begin the process of repair, growth, and expansion. This coherence acts like a carrier wave for your intentions. If you try to manifest a new life with an incoherent brain, it's like trying to send a radio signal through a storm of static. No matter how much you want to change, the signal never reaches its destination. But when the brain is coherent, the signal is clear, powerful, and undeniable. You are no longer just thinking about a new future. You are biologically installing the hardware to experience it. As this coherence deepens, you might feel a sense of clarity that is almost startling, because you have stopped the leaking of your vital energy into the past and the future. You have gathered all your attention into the present moment, and that concentrated attention acts like a magnifying glass focusing the rays of the sun. It creates heat, it creates power. You begin to feel a sense of wholeness that doesn't depend on anything outside of you. This is the physiological signature of self-mastery. You are teaching your nervous system how to stay centered while the world around you remains in chaos. It is not about escaping reality. It is about creating a new reality from the inside out. You are building a fortress of neurological order that serves as the foundation for every other change you want to make in your life. The more you practice this, more your brain begins to default to this state of order. You are essentially re-patterning your existence at the most fundamental level. Think of coherence as the bridge between the physical and the quantum. It is the language that the field understands. When you are incoherent, you are a fragment of a person trying to manipulate a fragment of the world. When you are coherent, you are a unified being interacting with a unified field of information. This is why people who master this state often report coincidences and synchronicities appearing in their lives. These aren't accidents, they are the result of a brain that is finally in tune with the frequency of possibility. Move beyond the limits of the senses and the limits of your old personality. You are now operating from a higher level of consciousness, where the brain is no longer a record of the past, but a map to the future. Every second you spend in this state of Neurological harmony is a second where you are literally rewriting the script of your life, moving from the old, disorganized patterns of survival into the elegant, rhythmic flow of a creator who knows exactly who they are and where they are going. To step into the true power of transformation, we must address the most powerful electromagnetic generator in the human body, which is the heart. People believe that the heart is merely a pump, but in the science of transformation, we recognize it as the center of sovereignty and the gateway to the quantum field. When we live in a state of survival, driven by the hormones of stress, we are constantly drawing energy out of the heart and into the lower centers of the body. The centers of digestion, reproduction, and fight or flight, we become guarded, competitive, and fearful. In this state, the heart is closed, and when the heart is closed, disconnected from our creative power. To meditate is to intentionally move that energy back up into the chest, to breathe life into the heart, and to begin signaling the body to feel an elevated emotion before the physical event has even occurred. It is the great secret of the masters. You cannot wait for your healing to feel whole, and you cannot wait for your abundance to feel wealthy. You must teach your body emotionally what that future feels like in the present moment. You do this by cultivating heart-centered sovereignty. When you begin to focus on your heart and breathe with intention, you start to create what we call heart coherence. Much like the brain, the heart has its own nervous system. When it beats in a disorganized fashion, it sends a signal to the brain that the world is an unsafe place. But when you consciously generate feelings of gratitude, appreciation, kindness, or joy, the heart begins to beat in a consistent, rhythmic, orderly pattern. This rhythmic beat sends a different message to the brain. It signals the brain to open up, to think creatively, and to move out of the survival centers. The heart and the brain start to dance in a synchronized harmony. It is the moment you move from being a victim of your circumstances to becoming a sovereign creator. Sovereignty means that you are no longer at the mercy of the news, the economy, or your partner's mood. You are the source of your own emotional state. You are choosing to feel an elevated frequency because you understand that your frequency is your identity. If you can maintain this heart-centered state regardless of the chaos in your environment, you have achieved a level of mastery that most people never even realize is possible. The heart produces a magnetic field that extends several feet outside of the body. When you are feeling resentment, frustration, or impatience, that field is weak and disordered. Frequency signal that keeps you locked in a state of lack. But when you activate the heart with an elevated emotion, that magnetic field becomes broad, coherent, and powerful. You become like a giant magnet in the quantum field. You aren't just wishing for a new life. You are literally broadcasting a signature into the field of information. This is why we say that the clear intention of the brain is the electrical charge and the elevated emotion of the heart is the magnetic charge. Together, they create an electromagnetic signature that influences every atom of your reality. Transformation, therefore, is an act of getting the mind and the body to work together. Your brain is saying, I am healthy, but your body is still feeling the emotion of suffering. You are a house divided against itself. You are sending a mixed signal. It is only when the thought and the feeling are aligned, brain and the heart are in coherence, that you begin to change your destiny. This requires a level of emotional discipline that goes far beyond simple relaxation. It means that when you sit in your meditation, you are not just waiting for something to happen. You are working. You are wrestling with your own history. You are looking at the tendency to feel sorry for yourself, and you are making the choice to reach for a higher frequency. You are practicing the feeling of your future. If you can sit in that chair and feel so much gratitude for a future that has not yet manifested, that your body actually believes it is happening right now, you are signaling new genes in new ways. You are changing your internal pharmacy. The body doesn't know the difference between an actual experience in the world and an emotion you are creating through thought alone. This is the beauty of the human design. We have the ability to make our inner world more real than our outer world. When you can hold that heart-centered state, you start to feel a sense of wholeness. And when you feel whole, it is impossible to want, because wanting implies that you are lacking something. You are in the state of wholeness. You simply are. You are in the state of the Creator, and from that state, all things become possible. Living from the heart is not about being nice or soft. It is a fierce, courageous state of being. It requires you to be greater than the habits of the past and the expectations of the future. It requires you to stay present in the heat of the moment and to choose love over judgment and expansion over contraction. This is how you begin to heal your life. You stop looking for the solution there, And you realize that the solution to step into a new life, one must first confront the gravity of their own history. And this requires us to understand the physiological nature of addiction to the past. People are unaware that they are literally addicted to the chemical states of their own suffering. When you experience a stressful event, whether it is a conflict at work, a betrayal in a relationship, or a financial setback, your body releases a cocktail of stress hormones designed for survival. These chemicals provide a high voltage jolt of energy that sharpens your senses and prepares you for battle or flight. The problem is that because we are the only species that can trigger the stress response through thought alone, we keep these chemicals flowing long after the event has passed. We think about the problem, we talk about the problem. We live the problem until the body becomes conditioned to that specific chemical state. Over time, the body starts to crave that rush of cortisol and adrenaline, just like a person might crave a drug. This is why it is so difficult to change. You may consciously want to be happy. Your body has become addicted to the familiar feeling of being stressed, judgmental, or unworthy. When you sit down to meditate, you are essentially entering a period of detoxification. The moment you close your eyes and disconnect from your environment, you are no longer feeding the addiction through external stimuli. This is when the body begins to rebel. The body, which has been the mind for years, starts to send signals to the brain, demanding its familiar chemical fix. It starts to manufacture reasons for you to get up. It tells you you're bored, that you're doing it wrong, or that you have more important things to do. Thoughts are just the body's way of trying to return to the known state of the past. If you succumb to these thoughts, you are once again allowing your biology to dictate your destiny. If you can stay in that chair and witness those thoughts without becoming them, you are beginning to break the addiction. You are pulling the plug on the old personality. You are starting to prune the neurological pathways that have kept you trapped in a cycle of predictable behaviors. This process of unlearning is a vital part of transformation because you cannot build a new house on top of a crumbling foundation. You have to demolish the old structures first. You have to become comfortable with the discomfort of the unknown. Most people find the unknown terrifying, so they run back to the familiar, even if the familiar is painful. They would rather feel miserable and know who they are than be happy and not recognize themselves. To break the addiction to the past, you must be willing to lose your identity as a victim, as a sufferer, person with a problem. You have to be willing to give up the very emotions that have defined you for decades. This is why meditation is an act of courage. The process of stripping away the layers of the old self until there is nothing left but pure awareness. In that void, you are no longer bound by the laws of your personal history. You are no longer the person who was hurt 10 years ago or the person who is afraid of what will happen tomorrow. You are a clean slate. As you continue to sit and overcome the body's protests, you are actually rewiring your brain. You are signaling to the nervous system that it is no longer okay to live in a state of emergency. You are teaching the body to feel safe in the present moment, perhaps for the first time in your life. This change is not just psychological, it is cellular. Every cell in your body is bathed in a new chemical environment. When you stop the flow of stress hormones and replace them with the frequencies of peace or gratitude, you are literally changing the expression of your DNA. You are moving from a state of survival to a state of creation. This is where the old self begins to dissolve and the new self begins to emerge. It is a biological upgrade that happens one moment of presence at a time. You are reclaiming the energy that was once bound to your past and making it available for you to create a new future. The hardest part about this is that it doesn't happen overnight. It is a daily practice of catching yourself in the act of being your old self. Noticing when you're about to complain, when you're about to judge, or when you're about to feel sorry for yourself and making a different choice. Each time you interrupt that automatic habit, you are weakening the addiction, are reclaiming your power from the past. You are becoming the master of your own internal chemistry. This is the difference between someone who is just relaxing and someone who is truly transforming. The person who is relaxing is looking for a temporary escape from their feelings, while the person who is transforming is looking to change their feelings at the root. They are willing to do the hard work of looking their own shadow in the eye and saying, I am no longer you. This is the liberation that comes when you finally realize that your past is not a life sentence, but a set of habits that you can choose to unlearn at any moment you decide to be greater than your body. Step beyond the veil of the physical world is to understand that everything we see, touch, and taste is only the smallest fraction of what actually exists. Most of us have been conditioned to believe that if we cannot perceive something with our five senses, we live as materialists, defining our reality by the objects we own, the people we know, and the places we go. But the moment you close your eyes in meditation and begin to quiet the chatter of the analytical mind, you are preparing to enter the quantum field of possibility. This is not a place of matter. It is a field of information and frequency. It is an invisible realm of energy that exists beyond this three-dimensional space and time. In this field, potential version of your life already exists as a signature of energy. There is a version of you that is already healed, a version that is already abundant, and a version that is already free. Journey of transformation is the process of moving your awareness out of this physical dimension and into that field of infinite potential where you are no longer a body or a person, but pure consciousness. When you reach the state of being no body, no thing, time, you have successfully moved past the door of the subconscious mind. You are no longer observing your life through the lens of your past experiences or your limited senses. You are now standing in the void, the blackness that is the womb of creation, where the laws of Newtonian physics, where things take time to move from one point to another, give way to the laws of quantum physics, where everything happens instantaneously through frequency. In this space, you aren't just relaxing, you are sampling a new reality. You are becoming aware of a different possibility for your life. Most people never reach this point because they are too busy being somebody. They are too attached to their name, their problems, and their history. If you can stay in that void long enough to lose your sense of self, you become a powerful observer in the quantum field. And the moment the observer focuses on a new potential, that potential begins to collapse from a wave of energy into a particle of experience in the physical world. This is the bridge between the mystical and the scientific. Every time you enter the quantum field, you are essentially placing an order with the universe. You are doing it with words. You are doing it with your electromagnetic signature. If you want to change your life, you have to change your energy to match the frequency of the potential that already exists in the field. Cannot find wealth if you are broadcasting the signal of lack. You cannot find love if you are broadcasting the signal of unworthiness. You must tune your internal radio to the station of the future you want to experience. It requires an intense level of focus and a complete surrender of the ego. You have to let go of the how and the when and simply become the frequency of the new reality. When you do this, you are no longer a victim of cause and effect. You are becoming the cause that creates the effect. You are no longer waiting for something outside of you to change so that you can feel better. You are changing your internal state so that the outer world has no choice but to reorganize itself around you. Quantum field, distance does not exist. This means that you do not have to go anywhere to find your new life. You have to become it. As you linger in this field of information, you start to realize that you are connected to everything and everyone. The separation we feel in the physical world is an illusion created by the senses. When you are in the field, you are part of the unified whole. This realization is what brings about profound healing and spontaneous transformation. When you connect to the frequency of wholeness, the body has no choice but to respond. It begins to shed the old patterns of disease and dysfunction because those things cannot exist at that higher frequency. You are literally pulling a new version of yourself out of the field and into the present moment. This is why people who master this state often describe it as a rebirth. They aren't the same person they were when they sat down, sampled by the infinite, and they have brought back a piece of that power with them. The beauty of the quantum field is that it is totally impartial. It doesn't care about your past mistakes or your perceived flaws. Response to the energy you're broadcasting right now. This is the ultimate freedom. It means that at any moment you can decide to stop being the old self and start being the creator. But you must be willing to stay in the unknown. People get to the edge of the void and turn back because they can't see what's in front of them. They want a guarantee. But the quantum field doesn't give guarantees. It gives possibilities. You have to have the faith to step into the darkness and know that your awareness is the light that will reveal the new path. When you can comfortably inhabit the space of nothingness, you are at your most powerful. You are no longer limited by the knowns of your life. You are a pioneer in the frontier of your own consciousness. And every time you return to this field, you strengthen the connection between your physical reality and the infinite potentials of the universe. When we talk about transformation, we are not merely discussing a change in philosophy or a shift in how we perceive our daily challenges. We are talking about a literal fundamental biological upgrading of the human system. For too long, we have been told that our genes are our destiny and that the blueprint of our health and personality is carved in stone the moment we are born. This old model of science suggests that we are victims of our inheritance, destined to play out the same diseases and behavioral patterns as our ancestors. But the emerging field of epigenetics tells a much more empowering story, and it is in the deep state of meditation that we become the masters of this process. You change your internal state. You are changing the chemical environment in which your cells reside. Your cells are essentially little factories, and the instructions they receive are dictated by the signals they get from your blood and your nervous system. Signals are constantly flavored with the hormones of stress. If you are always living in fear, anger, or judgment, you are signaling the same genes in the same ways, and the body begins to move toward a state of disease. However, the moment you step out of the old self and begin to embody a new frequency, you are essentially sending a new message to your DNA. You are signaling new genes in new ways. This is not a metaphor, it is a physiological reality. When you move into a state of elevated emotion, like profound gratitude or divine love, your body begins to produce an entirely different pharmacy of chemicals. It begins to release neuropeptides and signaling molecules that promote growth, repair, term survival. You are essentially telling your body that the environment has changed. Even though you are sitting in a chair with your eyes closed, the body, which does not know the difference between an external experience and an internal emotion, believes it is in a new, thriving reality. In response, it begins to down-regulate the genes for disease and up-regulate the genes for health. You are lengthening your telomeres, the protective caps on the ends of your chromosomes that are linked to longevity. You are strengthening your immune system by increasing the production of immunoglobulin A, your body's primary defense against pathogens. You are literally becoming a new biological expression of yourself. This is why meditation is far more than relaxation, a deliberate intervention in your own evolution. As you continue this practice, you are pruning away the old neurological connections and the old chemical habits that kept you tethered to a limited life. You are literally installing new hardware in the brain and new software in the body. Most people spend their lives trying to change their health by changing their diet or their exercise, and while those things are important, they are often just working on the surface. If you don't change the underlying energetic signature that is signaling the cells, you will eventually return to the old patterns. But when you change the energy first, the biology has no choice but to follow. Are moving from a state of survival, where the body is in a constant state of emergency and breakdown, to a state of creation, where the body is in a state of repair and regeneration. Biological upgrading is the result of you taking responsibility for your own energy. It is the realization that you have a pharmacy inside of you that is more powerful than any drug. You have the ability to activate it simply by changing the way you think and feel. This process requires you to be persistent. It means that you don't just do it once and expect a miracle. You do it until it becomes your new normal. You are conditioning the body to a new mind. Just as you might go to the gym to train a muscle, you are training your nervous system to operate at a higher frequency. Over time, the body becomes so accustomed to this new chemical state that it begins to expect it. You start to wake up feeling whole and vibrant, not because something happened in your outer world, but because you have successfully reprogrammed your internal environment. You have moved from being a person who is trying to heal to a person who is the embodiment of health. This is the ultimate form of self-empowerment. You are no longer waiting for a doctor or a pill to save you. You have become the scientist of your own life, observing how your internal changes create tangible, physical results. You are seeing the evidence of your transformation in the mirror, in your energy levels, and in the way your body moves. The implications of this are staggering. If we can change our gene expression through the power of our consciousness, then we are no longer limited by our past or our pedigree. We are free to reinvent ourselves at the most fundamental level. Biological upgrading is what happens when a human being finally wakes up to their true potential. You realize that you have been living in a tiny fraction of what is possible, and that by mastering the present moment, you can access the infinite power that resides within your very cells. Every time you choose an elevated emotion over a familiar habit of suffering, you are casting a vote for a new life. You are signaling to the universe that you are ready for a higher level of existence. You are no longer just a physical body navigating a material world. You are a conscious creator directing the flow of life through your own biology, turning the leave your past into the gold of your future. The ultimate test of any inner work is not how you feel while your eyes are closed in the silence of your room, but who you become the moment you open them and step back into the theater of your life. Spend an hour in deep immersion, touching the unified field and feeling the sublime emotions of a new future. But then return to your day and immediately react with frustration to a traffic jam or judgment toward a coworker or anxiety about a deadline. You have just returned to your old level of consciousness. You have essentially stepped back into the old self, and the biological and energetic changes you initiated during your practice will begin to dissipate. To truly transform is to bridge the gap between the meditative state and the waking state until they become one seamless expression of being. It is the commitment to living the future now, regardless of what the current reality looks like. This means that you must maintain that elevated frequency, that state of heart coherence and brain order in the face of the very conditions that used to trigger your survival response. You have to be greater than your environment. When you decide to live as the person you intend to become, you are no longer waiting for the world to change so that you can feel a certain way. You are starting to command the world through your internal state. Most people are waiting for success to feel empowered, for love to feel whole, but that is the old model of cause and effect. The new model is about causing an effect by embodying the emotion of the outcome before it occurs. If you can walk through your day with the posture, the breath, energy of someone whose dreams have already come true, you are literally walking into a new destiny. You are moving through the world as a different electromagnetic signature. This requires a profound level of mindfulness. It means that throughout your day, constantly check in with yourself. You must ask, am I still in the state of the creator, or have I fallen back into the predictable patterns of the past? The moment you catch yourself slipping into a familiar habit of lack or resentment, you have a choice. You can let the habit run, or you can use that moment to exert your will and return to the state of wholeness. This is where the true labor of transformation happens. It is easy to feel like a master when the world is quiet and you are sitting on a cushion. It takes a true initiate to remain centered when the world is demanding your attention and your old triggers are firing. Living the future now means that you are so invested in your internal vision that you are no longer swayed by the evidence of your senses. Your senses tell you that nothing has changed, but your internal state tells you that everything is already done. You must trust the internal state. You are training your nervous system to be the map of the future rather than a record of the past. As you maintain this consistency, you will begin to notice that the world starts to respond to you in ways you couldn't have predicted. Opportunities, synchronicities, serendipitous encounters be to find you because you are finally a vibrational match for the life you have been envisioning. You are no longer chasing your life, you are drawing it to you. Integration of the meditative state into the waking state is what creates a permanent shift in your personality. And because your personality creates your personal reality, your entire world must follow suit. You become a person who is no longer defined by what they do or what they have, but by the frequency they carry. This frequency becomes a sanctuary for others, a lighthouse of what is possible when a human being takes full responsibility for their energy. To see that the obstacles in your life are not there to stop you, but to provide the resistance necessary for you to strengthen your new identity. Each challenge becomes an opportunity to demonstrate that you are no longer the person you used to be. You are essentially testing your new software in the real world. If you can stay in the frequency of gratitude while facing a challenge, you have officially mastered that level of life. You have moved from being a victim of the world to being a master of the self. State of being becomes your default mode. You realize that meditation was never about the 30 or 60 minutes you spent with your eyes closed. It was about training your brain and body for the life you are living right now. No longer doing. A meditation, you have become the meditation. Every word you speak, every action you take, and every thought you entertain is now filtered through this new level of consciousness. You are living in a state of grace, not because you have been lucky, but because you have been intentional. You have done the hard work of overcoming the old self, and you have successfully installed a new way of being. This is the ultimate fulfillment of the human journey. The transition from a life of survival to a life of creation, where you are the conscious author of every chapter yet to come. You are finally awake, and in that awakening, you find that the life you once dreamed of is no longer a destination you are trying to reach, but a reality you are already inhabiting with every breath you take. You are not a grain of sand in the wind of your life. You are the wind itself. Stop trying to relax and start trying to become. The moment you match your energy to the potential of your dreams, the world has no choice but to respond.